Hello, my name is Father Isaac Rehberg. I'm the Archdeacon for Liturgy in the Anglican Diocese of the West in the Church of Nigeria North American Mission. And I'm also the rector of All Saints Anglican Church here in San Antonio, Texas. And today's video is a brief walkthrough of the 9 major psalm tones for Plainchant. So on the 24th of this month, and this video may have come out after that, but on the 24th of this month, we are having a workshop on chanting the Psalms using the St. Dunstan's Plainsong Psalter. You can see that my copy is very well loved. I've had it for over a decade now, and it's been a significant companion to my devotions for that time. Well, I wanted to give you all a single video where we can go through at least 5 verses or so of the major psalm tones, the 9 major psalm tones. Now, each of these in the St. Dunstan Psalter is going to have a lot of variations. So even though there are 9 major psalm tones, each of those has a lot of different variations. And if you have the St. Dunstan Psalter, you'll see that very easily, or another pretty significant Plainsong Psalter as well. But today we're going to go through just one example of each of the 9 major tones from the Psalter. So for tone number 1, we're going to look at Psalm number 48, and this is on page 62 of the St. Dunstan's Plainsong Psalter. So tone number 1. This is one of the tones that in my workshop I designate as a do-re-mi psalm. It kind of, because you're going to set up the tone by kind of singing in your head or humming quickly to yourself those first 3 notes of the scale, do-re-mi. Great is the Lord and highly to be praised, in the city of our God, even upon his holy hill. The hill of Zion is a fair place, and the joy of the whole earth. Upon the north side lieth the city of the great King. God is well known in her palaces as a sure refuge. For lo, the kings of the earth were gathered and gone by together. They marveled to see such things. They were astonished and suddenly cast down. So that is Psalm tone number 1 with Psalm 48 in the St. Dunstan Psalter. Let's move on to tone number 2. Now, that particular version of tone 1, it's not the most common version of tone 1 in the Psalter, but it's one of the easier ones. So if you get to know this tone, you can adapt it to other psalms if you need to as well. Okay, this is Psalm tone number 2. This is one of the ones that I consider a solati do grouping, because you kind of can walk up to that do of the scale to get the tune in your head. And this particular tone for tone for number 2, this version of number 2, is very, very common throughout the St. Dunstan's Plainsong Psalter. So Psalm 3 is a good example of psalm tone number 2. Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise against me. Many one there be that say of my soul, there is no help for him in his God. But thou, O Lord, art my defender. Thou art my worship and the lifter up of my head. I did call upon the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. So that was Psalm tone number 2. Let's turn over to number 3. Our example is going to be from Psalm 41. So tone 3, the example is Psalm 41, found on page 54 in the St. Dunstan Psalter. Again, this is not one of the most common of tone 3, but it is very beautiful, and it shows up several times. This is another solati do psalm, where you're going to use that walk up to the do to kind of set your tone. Blessed is he that considereth the poor and needy. The Lord shall deliver him in the time of trouble. The Lord preserve him and keep him alive, that he may be blessed upon earth. And deliver not thou him into the will of his enemies. The Lord comfort him when he lieth sick upon his bed. Make thou all his bed in his sickness. I said, Lord, be merciful unto me. Heal my soul, for I have sinned against thee. So that was tone number 3, using Psalm 41. Tone 4, this is probably my favorite of the tones. Tone number 4, the reciting tone is on the re of the scale, at least relatively speaking. And so what I do is I start with the do, find my re, so that I can know where I'm going on this one. So tone number 4, the psalm we're using is number 54 on page 70. Save me, O God, for thy name's sake, and avenge me in thy strength. Hear my prayer, O God, and hearken unto the words of my mouth. For strangers are risen up against me, and tyrants which have not God before their eyes seek after my soul. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is with them that uphold my soul. So that was tone number 4. This version of tone 4 is pretty common in the St. Dunstan Psalter, but there are several versions in there. Tone number 5, there's basically two major versions of tone 5. This is the easier one, the prettier one in my opinion, but it is not the one that's most common. It shows up again many times in the St. Dunstan Psalter, but you might find the other version of tone 5 a little bit more common. This is the only psalm tone that I classify as a do, mi, sol, where we kind of have that broken chord to find the tune in your head. This is Psalm 46 on page 61 for tone 5. God is our hope and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will we not fear, though the earth be moved, and though the hills be carried into the midst of the sea. Though the waters thereof rage and swell, and though the mountains shake at the tempest of the same. There is a river, the streams whereof make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most Highest. So that was tone number 5. For tone 6, we're going to turn to Psalm 23, one of the most well-known psalms, of course. Psalm 23 for tone 6, and this is another do, re, mi psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, therefore can I lack nothing. He shall feed me in a green pasture, and lead me forth beside the waters of comfort. He shall convert my soul, and bring me forth in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff comfort me. So that was tone number 6. Now, tone number 7 is also one of those that hangs out on the re of the scale, so that second tone, but it gets there from below, unlike tone number 4. So I start with my do, find the T, and then walk up to the re as part of setting this up. This is going to be Psalm number 143 to be the example of tone 7, and you can find this on page 206 in the prayer book. This is another one of those tones where we have many different variations in the St. Dunstan Psalter. Hear my prayer, O Lord, consider my complaint. Hearken unto me for thy truth and righteousness' sake. And enter not into judgment with thy servant. For in thy sight shall no man living be justified. For the enemy hath persecuted my soul, he hath smitten my life down to the ground. He hath laid me in the darkness as the men that have been long dead. Therefore is my spirit vexed within me, and my heart within me is desolate. So that is tone number 7. Tone number 8 is probably the most common psalm tone in most of psalm chanting. If anybody knows anything about psalm chanting, this is the tone that they just have heard everywhere. Very common, very beautiful, very easy. If anybody is just kind of trying to get into singing the psalms with your congregation, and you just kind of want to, okay, let's learn a psalm tone, a way to chant. Tone 8 is the one that I do recommend. Very common. Another sol la ti do psalm. The example here is going to be Psalm 100, found on page 138 in the St. Dunstan Psalter. Oh, be joyful in the Lord, all ye lands. Serve the Lord with gladness, and come before his presence with a song. Be sure that the Lord, he is God. It is he that hath made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. O go your way into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, and speak good of his name. For the Lord is gracious, his mercy is everlasting, and his truth endureth from generation to generation. So that was tone number 8. Again, probably the most well-known psalm tone. This one also had an example of both kinds of flex, that kind of quarter verse break. So verse 2 had the flex where you stay on the same note. Verse 3 had the version of the flex where you go down at the quarter verse, one note in the tone. Those are often considered optional when you're doing it for congregational singing. We do it here at All Saints, but that did give a good example of it. And also, if you're using the 1928 Book of Common Prayer or one of the other classical editions, Psalm 100 is one of the alternates for the second canticle at morning prayer. So that was Psalm 100 with tone 8. Now, finally, we have tone Peregrinus. If tone number 4 is my favorite, Peregrinus is a second, close second to it. The word Peregrinus in Latin means pilgrim or wandering because the reciting tone of Tonus Peregrinus, it's not constant. It's different from the first half of the verse to the second half of the verse. You'll notice this is not tone 9. This is kind of a special psalm tone. The 9th one does not have a number. It's supernumerary, but it is commonly used in the Psalms as well. And our example here is the second half of Psalm 22 in the St. Dunstan's Plainsong Psalter, which begins at verse 20 of Psalm 22. So Tonus Peregrinus with Psalm 22 beginning at verse 20. Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog. Save me from the lion's mouth. Thou hast heard me also from among the horns of the unicorns. I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the congregation will I praise thee. O praise the Lord, ye that fear him. Magnify him, all ye of the seed of Jacob, and fear him, all ye seed of Israel. Here at All Saints, we use Tonus Peregrinus as our venite tone when we're chanting morning prayer. So if you follow our morning prayer videos, you probably know this tone a lot better than folks that don't, because we do use it pretty much every day, every week on the videos. So those are your 9 basic psalm tones. Again, there's many varieties of each of these within the St. Dunstan Psalter. For more information on other resources for chanting the offices and the psalms, do check out our workshop, and I will put the link in the show notes to the video of that workshop. Thank you so much, and God bless.